Commission meeting to order at 6:32 on January 22nd, 2026. First call is a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is public comment. Sue?
Yes, I have, and I talked to Mary about it, and one of my concerns is people are parking over to the school during hockey season. And we've got that little hill going down, and I've had some calls concerning that. Somebody is going to fall and get hurt. Yes, Victor?
So, I got right on it. Mary got a hold of me. I went and talked to Luke. I went and talked to the elementary school, their head custodian. They just do the side on this side. It's up to the town. The only thing, and Luke said he's glad to do it, but a bus parks right in the way there, and we can't get in there and salt it and plow it. So we're going to check on that bus. And
can I give you another suggestion?
yeah,
Just an update too. We can't salt either because the tire with the Zamboni attracts in and it screws up.
Right, and I understand
So it
that.
can only be sand.
What if you guys, this is just a suggestion, I'm just afraid somebody's gonna fall, because we do get a lot of people at the hockey rink. Would it be possible to put up some poles, like a couple poles, so somebody can grab it when they're walking down the hill? It's just so somebody doesn't fall. That's all I'm concerned about, is safety. I'm really concerned about safety. I used to park there, but I don't park there anymore because I can't. I come early and I park over to the arena. I'm just afraid somebody's gonna fall and get badly hurt.
I think right now, Sue, I think it'd be pretty hard with the weather, but that's something we can
We can look at next year.
talk. I can talk to Luke and Scott and that, and see what we can do there. But right now, I think the best we can do is just try to keep it cleaned up. And I've talked to Luke, and he's on it. And
Okay.
so
That could be prepared for next fall.
Yeah.
A couple posts before it gets frozen, like a rope. It's just something to hang on when they're walking down. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, a little
I'm just
railing,
afraid
yeah.
somebody's gonna get hurt. That's all I'm
Okay.
concerned
Can't
about.
just put
Yeah.
something.
Thank you.
yeah,
Did you have a comment, Luke?
I was just gonna tell her that I got right on it and,
Thank you.
I walked over that last night and it was much better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
I agree.
And
Thank
we
you.
need to keep it away from the Zamboni.
Right.
Right.
yeah.
I'm trying to salt it where the bus parks, if I can get there before the bus gets there, so then people can walk.
Okay. That's all I'm concerned is about the safety. That's all I'm really concerned about,
Yeah.
is safety. You know me and safety.
I
Yeah.
apologize for falling behind.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Not moving on to Town Clerk Wendy Dusplon.
Okay, could I also ask that the planning commission make a motion to open their meeting because I have some minutes for them to approve. So go ahead, planning commission.
I'll make a motion to open our meeting.
I'll second.
Motion's been made to open the meeting, been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I have minutes from the select board meeting of January 8th, and it would be Mary, Richard, and Chad that were there, so Mary and Richard could approve those.
I make a motion.
A second? All those in favor?
All right.
Okay. And we have planning commission minutes from November 18th. You all saw them, correct? Okay.
Yeah. I make a motion to accept the minutes of November 18th.
Was that Tom that seconded?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Got a motion on the floor, been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, so I have, we are full steam ahead, town meeting, March 3rd. Polls will be open 7 to 7 at the arena. The information session is scheduled for February 19th, which is the second regularly scheduled select board meeting in February. So the informational session will be part of the regular meeting. Petitions and consent of candidate forms are due by this coming Monday, January 26th at 5 p.m. for anyone that wishes their name to appear on the ballot. It's been pretty slow. I did send out a few reminders today. So I don't think there's going to be anything crazy, but they have till Monday at 5 o'clock. Ballots will be ordered as soon as that deadline passes. So I should have absentees to send out early February. I already have a list. So if anybody wants to get on the absentee list, you can call me, email me, stop by, order them through the My Voter page, send me a smoke signal, whatever works, to get you your absentee ballots. Town reports. The deadline for submissions was the 15th of January. Shelley and I got the book together, sent the draft into the printers. We got the draft back and we approved that yesterday. So we could have books as early as next week. Once they are in, I will have them at the town office, the library, the arena, Martin's General Store, DeSorcy's, McEwen's. There will be a PDF on the website at some point in February. And you can call me to have one mailed, stop by to pick one up. Sue brings them around to some of her customers. Hopefully next week we will have some books. The list of appointed positions I published, those are for delinquent tax collector, DRB, planning commission, fire commissioner, road commissioner, all those things. Those letters of interest are due by February 26th, and we will start that appointment process after town meeting day. Dogs, we're licensing dogs like crazy, so people are coming in, that is good. That deadline is April 1st. Our rabies clinic will be March 28th from 9 to noon at the arena. Let's see, today was the first day I could publish the town meeting warning. You cannot publish it any sooner than 40 days before town meeting. Today was 40 days. So I did get that out to the public today. It is also part of the town report. That is probably the shortest town meeting warning we've had in years. Pretty basic, but all good stuff. The only other thing I have for all of you is I do have a pile of liquor licenses for approval, so I'll need you to exit out of this meeting and go into liquor control.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So do you want to do them by applicant, or do you want me to just list them all and do one great big motion?
Option 2.
Okay, you got it. So the ones I have are from the Tyler Place. We have a first-class liquor license and an outside consumption permit. DeSorcy's Market, we have a second-class liquor license and a tobacco license. And the Highgate Manor has a first-class liquor license and a third-class liquor license.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so you can exit out and go back in.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Or next motion to
Yep.
exit the
I'll
liquor.
make, yes.
I'll second.
Second
Okay.
by Richard, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is it for me.
Down the table all night.
Shelley is absent tonight, but we do have the check warrant. Is there a motion to accept the check warrant?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You also have the tax map maintenance.
Start that and I'll see it at the end. So we have a tax map maintenance proposal for the town. Processing data recorded from 4/1/2026 to 3/31/2027. It's going to review and incorporate all subdivisions, boundary line adjustment surveys, make any required property line area and frontage changes, review and title conveyance deeds, calculate areas of parcel, copies of property cards for parcels with new or changed buildings, including sketches, review information from a previous tax year. All reference data are compiled through the year, and data should be incorporated in format in a manner consistent with existing map and GIS data. And all work shall be reviewed and checked for errors, and preliminary PDFs shall be provided prior to the review. The cost of the service is $4,400 with building footprints, and sketches are provided as $20 per building added or changed.
I got no discussion on that.
Shelley left no notes.
Okay. It is what it is.
Same price as last year, no change.
Need a motion?
Yes,
For
please.
you.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to town administrator.
I got department updates. Do you want me to read out Rex first, or does the fire, you want to fight for first? Pick among yourselves.
Oh,
Great.
so this is just for the select board to think about. I got 3 things. The old engine 2. What would you like to do with it? Because the department has no care for it anymore. Plus it needs to leave Scott's barn by the springtime. So if you want to get rid of it, that's fine. You want us to keep it, you guys need to find a place to put it. And if that's the case, I'm gonna have to start a budget for it. Because it's just, I'm not taking money out of one of my other trucks to keep this thing running.
This is the one that was donated?
No,
No,
this is our very first truck.
okay.
The old 68,
Two,
68, whatever it is. The one that's
Oh,
in
that
Scott's
truck.
barn.
yeah.
Yeah,
The one
okay.
that we just use for spray.
Okay.
Second, it's time to put that tanker on a list to start for bids. Because the new one should be here, well, we'll say the FAR's the second week of February. Because they had to reorder the tire chains, which will be here, what you said, next week?
Yes.
And they had to do some remodification of the lettering so we could read the handles. And then this third thing is there a way we can eliminate 2 to 3 parking spaces over by the hydrant? Because people are parking way too close. And if we need to have the new engine to be pumping, we don't have front hard suction, we're gonna have to put it in parallel. And that's gonna cause problems.
Are you
If we
talking
don't
about
have an
Frog
extra.
Pond?
What's that?
Frog
Yeah.
Pond?
Yeah. We're gonna need a few extra spaces for the nose, so we can only hook up one length instead of running 10, 12 feet of, or 20 feet of hard suction, which is gonna cut our draft time in half, or it's gonna add more to it.
Make that big.
So, because it doesn't have, I mean, it's just something for you guys to think about, talk about.
That there, I think, myself, Gary, I think you need to go ahead and plan on that. We need space there, we need space. It shouldn't be a discussion.
Okay, well,
I don't know what the rest of them are thinking, but
You're talking
agree.
the frog pond, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I
frog
agree.
pond.
So I don't know much about your fire trucks, about how you load water onto the tankers.
So-
From the front, the side, the back, or all the way around, or where can you?
Well, the 2 trucks we have now, we can just drive it in straight, turn our hard suction, because it's on the bumper.
Okay.
Well, the new one that's coming in does not have one of those in the front. We'd have to drive from the side. So, and it's right behind the cab of the door. So we're gonna have to pull up
So
for
you're saying you're not good at parallel parking that thing?
Oh, I can parallel park it, but somebody's gonna be pissed if I hit the car.
Fair
Or
enough.
push it,
Fair enough.
out of the way. So I'm gonna need some more space.
How many spaces do you think?
I'd do at least 3.
Okay. I think whatever we need. I mean, is that lot ever full? I've never seen it full.
I think there's very few days.
But I'm gonna tell you, Vern, it don't matter how full it is, it seems like they always
They
want
always
to park
park right next to it.
right by the hydrant.
I have noticed that.
And let me tell you, I'm so itching to break a window. Just stick the hard suction right through it.
Don't do that.
I'm itching. That's it. I got other people are itching to do it too.
Yeah, I got no issue with making some spots. And obviously I have to put up some signage, no parking.
Yeah.
Not saying they can read or go sprinting, but at least it's
Yeah.
a start. But those other two, you can start thinking about.
Okay. So you don't want the old truck, to keep the old truck at all? For parades or nothing?
Well, it's.
Because of storage?
It's pain because we're gonna move it here, we're gonna move it there, gonna move it over here because we're gonna tear this down, never happened. That's why it's at Scott's barn. And now he wants to do something in the barn, but we can't get the damn truck running.
Okay, so the truck doesn't run right now?
We couldn't start it.
Battery or
No, the
something
truck
bigger?
batteries are fine.
Yeah, it wouldn't crank, right?
It wouldn't crank, and then he left for a week, I left for 2 weeks, and then Scott buried it in.
It just rang now.
Okay.
I would say we would advertise
Yeah.
both of them out for bid.
Works for me.
Just my suggestion.
But like I said, you got till spring to think about that one.
But you need room for the tanker as soon as possible, though, so I would say that would be something you need
Well, because
to.
if that one comes in, I'm gonna stick that one over here in the corner. Because right now, all that thing does is water the roads. And it's not good at this time of year. Because we were calling for Luke for some sand or something, because finally we just parked it because we were just watering the roads just too well for the other trucks when they go up the hill. Even with tire chains, it was pretty slick.
Luke?
So we have a new crew member, Logan Riley from Fairfield. He's working out quite well. He's worked for other towns, so he knows stuff that I'm impressed with, and I got getting some good energy from him. I think it'd be a good crew member for us. And so far, our winter's going pretty good, I think. Haven't got our 2-footer yet. It's coming.
It's coming.
Our sand shed, probably half empty now, but not to worry. We got plenty. We'll get more if we need to. Been ordering salt on a regular basis. As far as projects, it's not really, we're not looking for projects except for maintaining the trucks, get them clean if we can, finding trees to cut. Slow day, but there's lots of trees. We have cut past few days, and one in the park, there's some more in the park that are dead. Grader is done, so all we gotta do is make arrangements to go get it. We've done the brakes. They found a valve that operates the brakes that wasn't working well, and a fuel injector. So hopefully that'll be all good for a while. Haven't talked price yet. It's just gonna be less than what they quoted. I'm gonna go talk to them about that yet. Is there any questions for me?
We're going to get tires for that.
Yes, when it gets back, that was the thing.
Yep.
Tires range, put some good Michelin's on there. The other thing I want to mention, I may need to find a spot to put the John Deere and mower if the building's coming down.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that.
I didn't know if we built lean-to on the shed that we got already.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to discuss. I got one other thing while you're on it, Luke. I want to thank you, Scott, for the day that we had that all that ice and truck chain busted, and you took it and helped us out, and you took it in your shop and got it fixed. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, Luke, for stepping up this winter, working a one-man crew for the whole town for a couple weeks there.
It's tough, though.
You
You did it.
Tough to get going.
Yeah, much appreciated.
I've got, Jess couldn't be here today because it's her birthday. Birthday, Jess, but also she left me a note to read out for her recreation update. Currently in our winter program season, we added a pre-K kindergarten basketball program this year, which was possible thanks to one of the parents that offered to coach. They've been practicing Saturday mornings and learning basics of basketball. Previous rec sports season was fall sports, so they had 12 cross-country learners, 95 soccer players, and they also added field hockey, and they had 14 players, grades 3 through 6, and had some really cool and great volunteer coaches for that season. They are working currently on Summer Sounds Fest for this upcoming year, so as we get more and more into it, we'll get some more details and put out some flyers and stuff for that. Public skate numbers continue to be similar to last year. We have about 100 to 120 skaters each Sunday, and have added Saturday morning public skates where they're getting 50-ish skaters. Highgate Pro Shop continues to be busy every day during the ice season, providing skate sharpenings and hockey items. Average 75 pairs of skates rented during our Sunday public skates. And then skate sharpenings are also available all year round, not just during the ice season. They brought on Greg, as we know. She gave me a really good 6-month update, so I'm pulling through this right now. Greg is doing great. I would say that he's doing great work on my perspective too. Like, he's been really killer for us. And then we just finished the phase 1 project for the arena renovation project. New roof, new front entry vestibule, and a new recreation director's office up in the front of the building. We really appreciate everybody's patience while that construction continued through hockey season unexpectedly. Flow of foot traffic has improved, temperature at the lobby and arena has improved. Rec Commission and department are now looking forward to the future at phase 2, including the arena and other aspects of the recreation facility. They're currently working on what phase 2 looks like. And then they're also focusing on acquiring a new Zamboni. All the issues of the Zamboni. So, but yeah. That is from Jess. And then I would just like to jump in because Robert and Greta are here to my stuff. So if you guys are ready.
Correct.
Great. I don't know where we exactly want to start. Planning Commission is behind you guys, so it's a little weird. Do you want to just start off of like where we're just kind of sitting at?
Yeah, sure.
Right now?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So, it's been a little while. I'm Robert. I'm the engineer working on the wastewater system. We've been working on final design and permitting for the last couple of years. It started with a feasibility study and has progressed to a point where there's a significant amount of construction funding available to the town. We're at a point where we're getting ready to submit final plans and specifications and permit applications in for review. We're at the 90% milestone for the design. The design currently is a 20,000 gallon in-ground disposal system that's very similar to the conventional septic tank and leach field setup on a larger scale over on the right property. So essentially the village waste will be collected in a low pressure sewage line. It'll be pumped over to the right property. There will be some tankage there to help provide backup and redundancy. And then a small control building and some pumps that pump to a pressurized disposal field. It's not a mound. We're not building the grade up. It's all going to be in ground at grade. And there are a total of 20 different disposal beds that take up a large portion of the area that the town was able to acquire. We completed and have submitted draft information to get the 20,000 gallon a day wastewater approval. That's been a big focus over the last 18 months or so. Has been working through the permitting process and the state requirements to get to that point. Concurrently with that, Freddie and Greta have been working with the planning commission with a little bit of input from me on development of a wastewater ordinance, reaching out to customers about potential connections. We held some informal meetings here up at the town office. I came up and was here for chunks of time, 4 to 6 hours, and we had some other staff to be able to meet with property owners who plan to do something similar again as we do one final push for outreach for connections. Right now the project is split into 3 contracts. We refer to them as contracts 1, 2, and 3. Contract 1 being that disposal area at the right property. It's essentially the treatment process. It's everything down on the right property. Contract 2 is what we call a collection system. It's the lines that go in the town highway right away where everybody's septic would be able to pump into to be able to get it to the right property. And then contract 3 is individual service connections. With the funding that's available to the town, there's an opportunity if people sign up early to get their connection done at 100% part of the project cost of the grant funding that's there. There's a pretty substantial amount of money that could be available to people if they sign up early because the cost to connect could be $15,000 to $20,000. It's equivalent to the cost of replacing your septic system, or it's less than replacing your septic system in most cases, but that cost wouldn't be the property owner's responsibility if they sign up. And so Freddie's been working with Greta to do a great outreach program. We've had a lot of interest. Part of the reason why I wanted to come here and give you all that information is I think there's been a lot of discussions about interest and connection and capacity. And I want to take a minute and bring you back to kind of how we got here. When I took the project over from a former business partner of mine who moved on from our firm, there was a lot of discussion about a small underground system for Village 4. And at the time, the capacity was right around 6,400 gallons a day was the discussion. We met with you all, and the state had some perspective on the grant money that would be available and encouraged the town to proceed with a 20,000 gallon a day system, which is the next level up. It's a bigger system, requires a little more oversight. That 20,000 gallon a day system does not serve the whole village. If everybody decided to connect, you wouldn't have enough capacity. What's unique about the right property is that with some additional treatment down there, we refer to it as pre-treatment, but basically any type of biological treatment that you do, there's a lot of potential to add more waste down there. And at one time, our design included pre-treatment. We weren't going to be building it out as part of that initial phase, but we wanted to have it in the design, and we wanted to have it in what got constructed, because then you could do the testing at a later date and increase capacity and not have to build anything new. And probably, I'm sure Freddie and Greta would have the time a little bit better, but maybe about a year ago, the state came to a board meeting. They wanted a letter from the select board describing the project, and at the time, you all decided to pull the pre-treatment out. I think just given my background and on what we've seen for conversations, I think it's something the select board should consider adding back in, especially with the funding that's available. Freddie and Greta have worked really hard to help the town secure, close to $2 million in additional funding that we didn't have the last time we had this conversation. We're also much further along in the design process and more comfortable with what the costs will be. And I think, at least from our perspective, the town will be able to kind of make some phased decisions. So we can't start connecting people to the sewer system until we've built the pipe to get it to the disposal area and build the treatment system. So our plan right now is to finish the design, get the permits submitted, transition into a bid portion of the project over the next several months with a target of trying to start construction on the disposal field or the collection system or both sometime around Labor Day this year, depending on what contractor interest and availability is. We'd like to, and I'll be sending Freddie a write-up to consider amending the design to include the pretreatment as a capital investment. It won't allow you more capacity now, so I want to be clear, you'd still be limited to the 20,000 gallons a day, but it would eliminate the need to go back and add that stuff in the future. And given the interest, especially recently through the school and some other places, I think you could very quickly approach that 20,000 gallons a day to the point where I could be here talking to you about a project to build this in a 5 to 10 year period instead of a 15, 20 year period. To me, it would make sense to put it in now.
Just some additional information on that. So a kind of a big push to like bring back the pre-treatment question is because Missisquoi Valley School District for I couldn't say for how long, but as long as I've been here was not interested in connecting, but we through additional conversations and then some conversations about the water, they have put in a letter of interest for connecting to the system, and that would represent a huge capacity allotment, and is also kind of looking at what the future of the system is and, you know, the long-term sustainability of it. So I didn't know if you had anything else.
Are there grants available for the pre-treatment part if we adopt that as part of the system?
So one of the things that I'm hoping we'll be able to do with the funding that we have, the project is carrying about $1.5 million in contingency. As we are moving forward with this project and actually going to a point where we're going to build stuff, that contingency can be better understood what it would be needed for. So in that full stack of funding, we had 1.5 million in contingency set aside. We can include the design and include a separate item for the pretreatment system in the bid with that first contract. We estimate that the first two contracts are going to be about $3.5 to $4 million worth of work. It's the largest portion of the project, and the ARPA grant is essentially funding the bulk of that. So these new grants that are available, the MDRC grant and the potential funding, CDS through Balin's office, we're helping fill our funding gap, but a lot of our funding gap was contingency, to be honest. We feel pretty comfortable with the numbers that we've had. Obviously, we won't know exactly what everything costs until we get up to bid. But I think it's advantageous for Highgate to get out to bid sooner rather than later with some of the stuff that we've been seeing in our industry as far as contractor interest and competition levels and so forth.
For the Planning Commission, I don't know if you've seen this. We, so Carrie Johnson, while she was here, she applied for an appropriation through Balance Office, and that appropriation of $750,000 for the wastewater system has gone through the House, Senate, and is now awaiting signature by the President to pass. So that will be access to us at this point. Just for context.
Vern, I kind of scooted around answering your actual question. I think that the funding is there.
Yeah, that's...
The decision to whether or not to install it can be made after bids are open. If the price for that particular work comes in more than we estimate it to be, or at an amount that you don't feel is appropriate, you can always decide not to include it. But I think seeing how quickly there's been this interest and change in the 6 years that I've worked with the town, I think that it's worth considering that as a good use of the funding that you even have, maybe even more so than the actual connections of the individual properties. In my experience and what we've seen here in Highgate, some people have come out and expressed interest and are very interested, and others are not at this time. And usually what happens with a new sewage system or a new water system is that as the properties change hands or somebody's dealing with a septic issue or a well issue, that's usually what drives the conversation. Did they connect or did they do stuff? And so over time, I would expect, regardless of how many people connect on day one, that this thing eventually will get to a point where you don't have enough capacity. We estimate that to serve your existing village center, what we refer to as the designated village center, would be about 35,000 gallons a day need right now. So having more capacity would allow you to just continue to connect the properties are there, let alone a whole discussion about infill development, you know, adding an apartment or, you know, an in-law apartment or anything that you want to do zoning-wise. So I think it's a good investment.
So what I'm understanding is the pretreatment would allow you to keep the 20,000 gallons a day, but would pretreat make you up to 35,000 with the same infrastructure?
We could go up to 50. What's required is some additional engineering, testing, and monitoring the following summer. You basically have to demonstrate compliance that you're not going to have a negative impact from the system. And so there's some more work that would need to be done. We did a groundwater monitoring plan at the Wright property. We measured the groundwater every other day for a 3-month period. And there's over 30 feet of sand before you get to the water table. With the grade that's down there, we think we can apply 60 to 80,000 gallons of sewage and not have issues. But that testing component is more of a water quality discussion rather than how much can the site handle. And so that would be what might restrict it down. But you know, it's very common to see it almost double, to go from 20 to 40 fairly easily.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the audience?
So I'm hearing grants and everything, but what's it gonna, I'm getting, people are coming to me, what's it gonna cost the taxpayer? Is it, this ain't gonna be free, what's it gonna cost the town of Highgate people?
That's a great question.
You know, and that's where we are right now, what's it gonna cost the taxpayer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we put together, what the state considers a reasonable fee, is about 1 to 2% of whatever the household income in a given community is. That's the target that the state looks at when they provide grants. I will tell you that we are essentially 100% subsidized for the project. I've never heard of such a thing. I think there's, most projects I work on, public infrastructure projects, are lucky if they get 20 to 30% grant. We're sitting at 80 to 90 to 100% subsidy, depending on how you look at the contingency. How much money it costs the taxpayer is a question that we haven't discussed. In Vermont, most systems are paid by the users. And what I've been trying to do and working with the town for the last 6 years is acquire these grants so that we can keep the user costs down. At the end of the day, if this thing ends up being 100% grant funded, the only costs that will be needed will be the operations cost each year by the users. There's no capital investment needed even by the users. That's very rare. Most of the time there's borrowing that has to happen and a capital investment that's needed. What the actual costs are depend on how many people connect. So I'm not trying to ignore your question, but if we put in a whole system like this and only one house connected day one, the cost to run that system would be a little bit higher than if we had 50 people connect. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to have electrical usage and pumping and fixed costs that are not going to go away. The biggest fixed cost being your operator expense. You're going to have a licensed wastewater operator, which I think Freddie talked about in the packet that she put together. But those things, the more people who connect, the closer you get to the capacity of the system, the lower the cost per user is and the better value it is. But as far as an opportunity, it's a relatively unheard of opportunity because not only is all of that money there, but all of that money would be there for the customer. You know, as an engineer who does work on, you know, public projects like this, but also private things, we have dealt with septic systems that when they're complicated in a village and your neighbor's well, you know, a septic system replacement could be $40 to $50 to $60,000 depending on what the state makes you do. To have that cost paid by this project, if you sign up early, to be able to have somebody come on your land, connect to your sewer line, put a little pump station in, do all that work, and the user doesn't have to pay for it, is a tremendous opportunity. That is also not common. Most of the time on public projects, it stops at the right of way, at the highway right of way, and it's the customer's responsibility to pay for that connection. And when this project's done and built, people who didn't sign up early are going to have the same challenge of having to pay for that cost when they go to do it. You know.
So just,
What you're saying, we should be able to build out enough to keep it sustainable on its own.
I certainly would think so. I mean, I have a much more positive outlook on it having worked here, initially there was a lot of concern about what's the real need, and we were keeping that project small. And I'll be honest with you, I was in agreement with it. I think there was a lot of resentment towards it and not a lot of interest. Over the last 6 years, the number of calls, the people that I've met with, the people that have reached out to Freddie, most of them, to be honest, are businesses or people who have dealt with their wastewater system. It's not as much residential, but I think a lot of that is because people haven't had to deal with it. If you had to deal with your septic at your house and you had to hire an engineer to deal with this or pay a contractor to come in and fix it, you have an understanding of what those costs are. The businesses, the gas stations, the places like that, they've dealt with it, they know what it's limiting to their business, and that's why they've reached out to Freddie and expressed interest. So I'm very confident that as it proceeds forward, people will continue to connect. The other thing that often happens really, when you go to sell a property, if you got sewer and water 50 feet from the home, and you have a well that maybe fails to pass, or you got a sewage line that somebody's concerned doesn't function, having that there makes the property transaction happen, and the connections usually happen at that time too. And that might be 10 years down the road, but it's kind of what happens, especially as the state makes regulations more firm. They don't tend to make them easier. So.
What kind of lifetime for the infrastructure?
It's a good question. So the piping that we're putting in is all fused HDPE piping, similar to the gas infrastructure that we're in, so that the only connection points are the individual connections. It's what we refer to as a low pressure force main, so each house would have a little pump. They're going to pump into it, they're going to send their effluent only, so on their house lot, they'll have essentially a septic tank that's combined with that pump system. The septic tanks have to be pumped out. These are a little bit bigger, once every 5 years for a family of 4. If you were, just a couple that live by yourself, you'd probably never have to pump it out, to be honest. So that, all of that infrastructure, we estimate in the 50 to 60 year range. Those pipes have a projected life longer than that, but that's what the state has us use. For the disposal field, it all comes down to cleaning and maintenance. A functional leach field like that could be 40 years. And then the replacement fix is you dig it out, you dig out the stone, you put new trenches back in. It's just a regular septic leach field. There's some stone underneath it and a perforated pipe. And the only difference is because of the size of it, we have to have it under pressure. So we got some pumps down there because the pressure allows us to equally spread out the sewer along the length of it. These are very long lines, but it's the exact same thing as you have at your house. In practice, in Vermont, the town of Rochester, for example, they got a 20,000 gallon a day sewage system. You wouldn't even know it as you come into Rochester on 100. It's up on a hill. That has been in service for 35 years. No maintenance issues other than they flush it and inspect it every year. I'm aware of several systems that are similar to that. We tried, to the extent possible, our approach was to keep it as simple as it could be, so it's just septic tank and effluent. The treatment process that we're talking about is basically using biology to break the waste down more. So when water goes into a septic tank and all the solids settle out, what leaves that has a certain concentration of waste in it, and we get the treatment through the soil. That's why we do a shallow leach field. If we, before that goes to the soil, we put in a pre-treatment system, we just reduce that waste strength more. And all we're using with pre-treatment is biological activity. We're just trying to speed it up.
So you put it in set in another tank?
You'd be setting another tank, and there'd actually be like a recirculating pump. There's usually some media in there that gets a good growth. So it's a little more operations expense, but again, at that cost, it's relatively low. And when you start reaching that peak capacity, it gives you a lot more operational flexibility.
So everything that's sized, let's say within the village limits, is sized for maximum capacity?
Yeah, in fact, I mean, we haven't looked at it, but I would guess to say that if you changed your mind in 50 years and you wanted to pump it to Swanton, the pipe that we're putting through, you could turn around and flip it the other way, right? I mean, that's collection infrastructure that you could do what you want with it. We have to design for, quote-unquote peak condition of flows coming in from these houses pumping at once, but in reality, a 6-inch line can carry several thousand gallons a minute, and that's what we're putting through. It doesn't make sense to put a 2-inch line in, because we've gone through The bulk of the cost is the machines and the guys doing the work, especially with the federal money that we're talking about. You have to have prevailing wages and other things. The pipe material is such a small component of it, so we tried to maximize the pipe size for that. But I would be confident that none of that would need to be upgraded with anything that we're proposing.
So you've added in the bigger part of our village, right? That's all added into our bigger village that we're adding? I want people to know that our village has grown. It isn't just from the arena down, it's out towards Richard Flint, it's the Cassidy property right there. Has that all been added in?
It hasn't been added in.
Because I got a letter saying I want it, I don't need to help where I am.
Yeah, so right now, the lines all, they go up the little St. Armand Road, they go up Gore Road, and there's a little portion on 78, and there's some pipe on Lincoln Street, and that's all within the designated village center. That 40,000, 50,000 gallon need, that future need, that is all part of that expanded area that you're talking about, what could potentially happen and connections that could occur. But as far as the initial connections, we're not putting infrastructure out that far. Our infrastructure is staying here. I think the farthest.
So why did I get a letter?
I think you got a letter asking for.
To know if I wanted to, I got one of them that wanted to know if I wanted to sign up way out where I am?
Sure, they sent it to, well, so they sent it to everybody trying to get an interest, because part of it is the conversation has changed a little bit. When we reached out, everybody said no initially, then we reached out and they were trying to decide where the best use of the money was. If everybody out on your road headed out that way said, I want to connect, well, then that would be the focus of the project. And that's why we were trying to get some interest from people and see where is the focus, where's the real need. To be honest, it's fairly spread out, but mostly it's been commercial responses that have been.
But what you just said to Henry, I wanted Henry to know that you're talking just the village, and Henry's mind in the village is from the arena down. Now, am I right, Henry?
I'm kind of asking the question.
Yeah.
Is it size for the future?
Yes, if you extended out any of those roads,
Right.
you connect onto the pipes that we put in the village on either end.
Right.
And you have more than enough capacity to go out to any of the limits that we've talked about.
Because the infrastructure that's happening toward the Cassidy farm, that's going to have its own systems, correct?
That's what?
That's going to have its own system. That's not heading this way.
No, but what's happening there right now it is. But what they are looking at going there. Right now, it's been put in for that, but they are looking.
Okay.
But any of those pipes could be connected onto and extended out any of these streets.
So say for instance, if we extended it up the end of Lincoln Street, would we have to, because that's on the other end of town heading the opposite way, we have to put separate pumps? No?
No.
Really?
Yeah, so,
because that's probably, say, a mile and a half, 2 miles east of the actual Wright's property.
yep, what we would do is probably just put a in-ground check out, in a ball, and then that will prevent any of the waste from just going down that way, but in reality, all the pumps, they pump through the low point of the system, which is the tanks at that site. And we've looked at all of the elevations through Highgate, very comfortable with the layout through the extents that he was talking about as far as your designated village center and the buffer beyond that. But we can, the way that system works, there's liquid in there, you're not pumping the solids, it's just the liquid from the septic tanks. And how often do you think everybody's pumps come on? They make us design it for the worst case scenario, but most of the time, pump will kick on, it'll push a little bit of liquid out into it, and then you'll go to work, and it won't come on until you cook dinner and you get home. So some of that is going to be, that liquid sits in there, and it is slowly pumped down through until those pipes fill up, and then it's under low pressure, meaning it's like 5 to 15 pounds of pressure, and each one of the house pumps can pump through it. So once the line's full, every time a house pump kicks on, it'll pump through it and pump down to that tank.
And maintenance of this system in the future, does that have to be a town-owned position, or could that be farmed out to a subcontractor?
As far as the annual maintenance?
Annual maintenance or upkeep, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a decision the town will have to make. It can be contracted out. The maintenance could be contracted out. They have a draft ordinance. Usually on a very simple system like this, it makes sense to do the contract operations that way, at least to start, until you get to a point where the maintenance is becoming a regular chore and then you need help with it. The other alternative is if there's interested town employees that want to get licensed and work through that process, there's an opportunity there too, to see some benefit that way to do it. As far as the repairs, it could be, it's most commonly done just on a case-by-case basis, call a contractor and have them come and fix it. It's not something we would expect. We do repairs all the time.
And then the cost of those repairs would be based out of our basically dedicated fund balance.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we haven't really gotten to, because again, we don't know how many people are connected and where we're at. But as part of the annual budget, we need to make sure that the system is solvent, so it sets aside some money so that it doesn't need to depend on anything other than funds that it's able to set aside. And for a 30, 40-year period, there would be an opportunity to be able to set aside some reserves so that you can do those repairs.
Right, because the pumps, if we put in 30 new pumps next year, in 15 years, we're probably going to replace it about 29 of them.
Correct. And so that,
You know, so we gotta have a kitty there that we have the money to go out and have this done.
correct. And that has all been built into the estimates that we did as part of that study and what we thought was the annual cost. And then those are just, you know, an educated guess. You gotta see how the system functions. There are plenty of systems in Vermont that have very low operating expenses because they're simple, and that was the goal here.
So on a system like this, say we get it close to capacity in 15, 18 years, what kind of money would you want sitting in that wastewater
I'm gonna have to
pot for regular maintenance and the once in a while the big problem?
I would have to think about that.
Because that's a goal that the charging the cost of the end user is, we're going to have to build that pot over a period of time, so we have that money there allocated to maintain that system.
What we suggested, I think, was 2 to 3% of the annual budget. So if your budget's $30,000, doing 2 to 3% each year, depending, because it'll slowly increase, your expenses will go up. So 2 to 3% is not always going to be the same number. And I think that would be an appropriate starting point, but I'd have to look at it a little closer to give you a better answer for that. That was a lot of information, I'm sorry.
Good stuff, though.
It's not the end of the informational. I'll kind of lump in the other two agenda items just because they're all so related. And I was gonna keep Robert only for the rest of this in case something other sparked a different wastewater question that he could be here for and answer directly for you. But in terms of Village Core and the state of the water project, so when I say the water project, I'm just talking about, so we've gotten our feasibility study back that determines that there was kind of two options. One was extending the line all the way from the airport, the Swanton Village line, all the way up from the airport up to the Village Core, which while would be a very stable and steady utility project, like it would provide, that would not be very similar to the airport project now, where we would probably hold on to it for a year or two in terms of liability while all the warranties go through, and then it would be owned by the Village of Swanton, but that would cost us probably, I think the estimates were like 15 to 18 million dollars for that, just because of the sheer amount of pump stations, because of the elevation changes. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with that, especially with all the permitting going on with Route 78. But, so right now, the Square Valley School District has given us explicit permission to do the testing. So this week I this or next week, I'm hoping to put out an RFQ to do that testing, and that's really what we're.
So have they talked about any, is it gonna be a lease, is it gonna be purchase of the property, is it gonna be just a right of way? Have they had any discussions with?
So, the conversations that I've had with the school district, number one, we have explicit motion permission right now for that testing, but we do know that we will probably most likely need at least an easement, if not an option to acquire the property, but we're hoping that if we can get enough information to determine that that property is viable for water, that we have that conversation then, because I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and we don't have buy 20 acres money right now, and I don't think that that's really what the school district would want right now either. So that's a conversation for after this testing, because I don't have enough information to give you or to give the school district in regards to like what that property would look like, but yeah.
What's the testing gonna cost us?
We don't know yet. So there's some estimates in terms of some of the testing, but I don't have enough information to give you right now. That's why I would like to put out, that's why I'm gonna put out an RFQ. That will give us a better idea of exactly what those costs are, and if any of those can be under grants for clean water. Yeah, that's currently where we're at. So the request for qualifications will go out and turn around really quickly, and that will give us more information on the timeline for the testing, the amount, and we won't make any purchasing decisions in terms of like getting those contracts in before we have that information. So we'll be back with that information in any kind of testing capacity. So for Village Core, I know that there's been a lot of questions pretty generally. Did you guys have any just kind of to start off with, or?
So I just want to comment, we are waiting for a final NRPC and final testing on the property next door, Mill Hill. We do have some visual stuff there, but we're not quite ready to go further yet, but we're working on it. I know I've had a lot of questions on that.
Oh, which is separate from, but it's a long strike. But yes, we're not ready to tear down 20 Mill Hill yet. We're working on it though, because we're trying to do it in conjunction. Anyways. But was there any other like specific Village Core questions that you guys had?
Well, we're still waiting on mitigation and stuff like that, correct?
So the conditions that I'm waiting on for the 28 Mill Hill are separate from.
No, but I'm talking now.
Oh, for Village Core? Yes, please. Yes, please. Please. Please.
So the corrective action plan has been completed, and we're waiting on the final sign off from the state, basically an approval letter that says this corrective action plan is approved. It's been out for public comment. Verbally, we've gotten the okay that it's going to be approved. We just haven't seen the letter documenting that. So that's a milestone that is about to happen and is important. And so that corrective action plan includes both the building materials abatement, that is your first step, that you're looking to do as soon as possible, in addition to the soil remediation. So it covers the full scope of cleanup at the property. The building materials abatement, so the corrective action plan includes specific work plans that have estimated costs. And so that's what you apply to our program, our cleanup funding program for. So we awarded, I think, $136,000 with a matching 0% interest loan. For a total of $170,000 to cover that building materials abatement, the asbestos and the lead, after which you'll go ahead and do the demolition. And so that funding has been awarded. In addition to the letter that signs off on the corrective action plan, we're waiting for sign off from the Department of Historic and Preservation, which is also a requirement of the federal funding that is paying for the cleanup. So things are moving forward. I would say you're almost ready to put that project out to bid. I know Freddie has put an RFQ out for a contractor to oversee that work, which is also a requirement of the federal funds. But the grant that we have provided you will pay for that oversight. So that firm will manage the bidding process of that abatement work. So things moving forward, a few more things to check off. But I think very close to being able to put that building material statement out to the bid and to move forward with that demolition. The phase 2 will be the soils, but I think let's get step 1 done.
I know, yeah. We're kind of in that government waiting, holding pattern right now.
Yeah.
We've got what we need submitted, but again, we got to get our permission and our ducks in a row before we do any physical moves. So.
Any questions from people out there? You guys all set?
Yeah.
Anything else about water, wastewater, village core?
What's your timeline on the water? When we're gonna get the studies done?
My timeline is as soon as possible. The RFQ that I would like to put out has a really kind of tight turnaround, mostly because we would need to get that information in terms of pricing and just like exactly what we need to do. That's kind of where we're looking at right now. So I don't have a specific timeline. I couldn't say with any certainty. I mean, I would love to have it done within the next couple months. But I don't know how realistic that is, and I don't know if we can get that done in the next couple of months, but that is certainly my goal, is to do it as soon as possible to provide as much information to y'all as possible. Because that's really what's the testing is all about, is getting the select board and you guys as much information as possible about the project and figuring out if it is really, really, truly feasible in the larger scale.
Sorry, new Apple update. I turned my phone off 3 times. I can't figure it out. We got an email this week from a Highgate resident about Cathedral Square and about money spent in it basically stated the town doesn't have money to do anything on this property. We shouldn't be spending money on this. I've been doing this for a couple of years now and kind of think I've got the hang of it now, but almost everything we do in this town is through grants. Everything.
Almost everything.
The wastewater project grants, the water project's gonna be grants, the airport grants. Hardly any of this, and one of the reasons I got on this board was to help keep taxes down in this town, which we've managed to do, I think pretty well. We're always staying under the COLA every year, or the cost of inflation rate, which is usually 2.5%, 3%. Hardly anything comes out. I think the last time we voted on something was the water for the airport. And that ended up getting paid back, I believe.
That was a
right?
security bond? I could not.
It's likely a bond, but that was not a project I was managing, so.
Right.
It was a bond, but I don't think that they ever pulled from the bond.
Correct. So money never came from any of our pockets, and that's the goal of this select board. I can tell you that every member that's changed here since I've been here, we're on the same page. We try and do this all through grants to save the taxpayers money and get the most bang for the buck. So to the gentleman who wrote the email, if you're watching, we're trying not to put a dime into that, and so far we haven't. We've got great partners like Greta here and BRC. Is it? Yeah, I don't know where I gotta get the acronym right. Anyways, she helps us get a lot of money, a lot of stuff done in this town. So yeah, a lot of alphabet soup. But anyways, just to put everybody at ease, we're trying to save everybody money, but still move forward in the town or progress a little bit, so.
Most of our so I think on average, we're just under, for especially all of our larger projects, we're under 15% taxpayer funded, which is absolutely incredible. I have not encountered another town that has that ratio of, and when I say about 15%, some projects have more match, some projects have no match or very little. So to have a pretty rough average of less than 15% of any given project being taxpayer funded is really incredible. So yeah.
And usually what I see, even at the beginning of a project, they'll say there's a 15-20% match by the town. By we get to the point where we break ground or get done with a project, that match is usually a grant, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I was, all of two of the major kind of motions on my end for the wastewater projects, both the $750,000 earmark and then also the school districts being interested, that came within last week. That was last week?
Yeah. Last week.
It was one hit right after another of some really great news for us. And so it's even if things may seem a little turmoily, again, it's always just time. It seems like time here, and also having some really awesome staff, including our partners, has really made it work for us. So yeah. Robert, did you have anything else?
Just related to the well, the Scott's question, we do a lot of that well work. We help Franklin drill well, we're getting ready to do the project. Takes a little bit of time to make that happen. The state's permitting process for water is actually more complicated than it is for sewer.
Somehow.
And the other thing with water that usually takes the most time is you have to develop a public water system, and there's really specific criteria that show that you have the capacity to do that. The drilling is actually the longest lead. We did the well in Franklin with Chevalier, and Claude at the time was like, give us 6 to 8 months notice. Recently, I think that's kind of what they're running for time frame. And so my recommendation to the town when we did talk to the drillers soon too, because unfortunately there's no good way to do test drilling. You basically drill well and you drill a municipal well. You do a driller's blow test, like 4-hour pump test. A good rule of thumb is roughly half that number is what you could get permitted. That's the rule of thumb without doing any other testing. So the town could, with permission from the school and an easement or option agreement, that you drill a well, they do that test, and if it doesn't come back with enough water, there's no reason to go do a test of the quality of it or anything like that. And there's definitely no reason to hire an engineer to figure out exactly how many gallons per minute you can get out of it. That's kind of the first step that we always go through. Sometimes it works out great. We did that well in Franklin. They needed 50 gallons a minute. They got 150 gallons a minute first try. Sometimes you drill a well, you need 50 gallons a minute, you get 3. So there's no guarantee, especially when, in this case, you're taking an opportunity where the school said, hey, this land could be available, it's close to what you want to do. That doesn't always mean that it's the best place to drill. There's some hydrogeology that can be done to determine the best spot. But it's worth, in my opinion, looking at the numbers that Freddie had circulated through that report, it makes sense to look at that first, because then you can just check it off. It's going to cost you some money, but then you can know that you did the due diligence for the taxpayer and say, yeah, we looked at that and it wasn't an option, or we did it and it turned out great. So.
Y'all good?
I'm good.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Planning? Great.
Thank you guys for all your work.
Luke, still awake?
So I think we're good on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
He's got
Thank
more
you.
reason to be a speaker.
Thanks, Red. Thank you. Thanks, Robert. You too.
Great. Next up on the agenda, we have the Macy Road stability study from Geodesign came in.
Appreciate it.
That is in your packets. This is not an action item.
What are we talking about?
Bye, folks.
Mesa Road.
The Geodesign Macy Road stability study. that came in, which was also fully grant funded. So that report is in your packets.
Somewhere.
It will also be posted on the website, and when I get that final water feasibility report, we're currently waiting on just some minor comments from staff. They're making their adjustments, and then they'll send that back as their final report. That will also get posted on the website for everybody to have access to. So the report from Geodesign is less of an action item and more of a, here, A,
Yep.
here's the report, and then B, just so we are going through the steps of canceling the VTrans STP, oh goodness, I'm pulling it out of the back of my brain, but the VTrans grant, that was gonna be for 1.3 with a $350,000 match. I'm trying to pull it off the top of my head, I probably shouldn't. So that grant was canceled because that was construction on Macy Road. That grant, when it was originally pulled together, was pulled together many years ago and expected to serve the construction portion of it about 500 feet of that roadway. The construction costs now, it would serve less than about 100 feet of that roadway, and in all reality, the issues with Macy Road and the erosion on Macy Road, 100 feet isn't going to do anything for public health and safety. So, Select Board decided and approved that we would basically pull out of the grant. We would, there are some costs that we did have to eat with that, but then that leaves us with a significant amount of money that we will be using to implement an active well monitoring system. I am working with NRPC right now and also some folks from VTrans on how to best utilize that money. And then we'll probably post out a request for proposals for an active well monitoring system. So we're working with Vermont Emergency Management, VTrans, A&R, NRPC, all of the alphabet soups on what is the best kind of like request for proposals that we could put out to use that money for public health and safety, and make sure that while we plan for the future, we do what we can. So that's kind of that. The highlights of the study are basically, it is exactly as we expected. There's some shifting, there's some instability in the road, and they also had some alternatives and options for us to consider, and I'll be having those conversations with Geodesign. But the study is as expected, you know, and then also the weather between the drought this summer and then the flooding that happened the summer previously when the data was being collected for this study. That certainly, you can see it in the actual data points. So yeah. Did I hit everything?
Yep, for now, for that.
Okay. If there wasn't anything that I can come back with, so if you have any questions now, I'm happy to like come back to another select board meeting, get the answers to that, and to make sure that everything gets covered. But if none of that, you can always email me. Anybody can always email me. We would like to move on to dog control ordinance.
Okay, has to read the whole document, right? Whole document has to be read.
I'm pretty positive the whole document has to be read out loud.
All right.
Am I crazy for that? I'm looking at Wendy, but I could be wrong.
Or just the changes?
Basically all of it. There were so many changes that we'll probably just read those, yeah.
We could take turns.
That's all right. You ready?
Yep.
Town of Highgate Dog and Wolf Hybrid Control Ordinance. This ordinance is adopted by the Select Board of the Town of Highgate under the authority of 20 VSA 3546, 3549, 24 VSA 2291, 10 and 2291, 14 and 15, and 24 VSA Chapter 59. The purpose of this ordinance is to regulate the keeping of dogs and wolf hybrid to protect public health and safety and to protect the residents' quiet enjoyment of their properties. The ordinance supersedes all previous versions of dog and animal control ordinances, and policies in the town of Highgate. For the purposes of this ordinance, the following words and/or phrases shall apply. Dog means any member of the canine species. Wolf hybrid means an animal that is progeny of a dog and a wolf, canine lupus or canine rufus. An animal that is advertised or otherwise described or represented to be a wolf hybrid, or an animal that exhibits primary physical and/or behavioral wolf characteristics. Owner means any person who has actual or constructive possession of the dog or wolf hybrid. The term also includes those persons who provide food, water, and/or shelter to the dog or wolf hybrid. Running at large means that the dog or wolf hybrid is not on a leash, cord, chain, command, or otherwise, in a vehicle, on the owner's property, on the property of another person with that person's permission, clearly under the verbal or nonverbal control of the owner, or hunting with the owner. Vicious dog or wolf hybrid means a dog or wolf hybrid that attacks any person or causes any person to reasonably fear, attack, or bodily injury from such animal unless the person is trespassing on the property of the owner of the animal. The term shall also mean any animal that, while running at large, attacks another domestic pet or domestic animal as defined in 20 VSA 3541. Nuisance means a dog or wolf hybrid that enters public or private property other than the owner's, where the animal performs an act that disturbs the quiet enjoyment of the individuals who own the property. These acts include, but are not limited to, defecation, rummaging in personal property, or garbage, unwanted presence, and causes damage. Disturbance and nuisances: no dog or wolf hybrid that creates a nuisance shall run at large in the town. No dog or wolf hybrid shall harass or attack other animals or people unless such animals or people are trespassing on the private property of the owner and the dog or wolf hybrid. A female dog or wolf hybrid in heat shall be confined to a building or other secured enclosure except while under the direct control of the owner. No person shall own, keep, or harbor a dog or wolf hybrid that disturbs the quiet, comfort, and response of others by frequent, habitual, or persistent barking or howling. An enforcement officer, upon receipt of a written or electronic complaint of a person or persons disturbed, will investigate the complaint. If the complaint is deemed valid, the enforcement officer will issue a warning to the owner of the nuisance or disturbance dogs or wolf hybrids. The enforcement officer investigating the complaint will document their findings, take photographs, and place them in file with the Highgate Town Administrator. Upon receiving a second written or electronic complaint within 1 year, the dog or wolf hybrid will be ordered chain confined or impounded. Waste removal. The person in control of a dog or wolf hybrid that defecates in any public area or on the private property of another person shall immediately remove the fecal material and dispose of it in a sanitary manner. Collar and license. Each dog or wolf hybrid shall be licensed according to the laws of the state and shall wear a collar or harness with a current license attached. And an animal that is visiting from out of state must wear a collar or harness with a current license from its home state attached. A dog or wolf hybrid that is found without a collar or harness and license shall be immediately impounded under authority of 20 VSA, section symbol 3806, and shall be managed under the provisions of the statute. License fees will be established annually by the Town of Highgate Selectboard and Town Clerk. Section 7, humane care of dogs and wolf hybrids. All dogs or wolf hybrids shall be furnished with clean and safe facilities sufficient to protect the animal and the public health. Any dog or wolf hybrid determined by a town enforcement officer to be without such clean and safe facilities may be impounded. Animal cruelty is defined in state statute. Enforcement. This is a civil ordinance and shall be enforced by the town enforcement officer appointed by the select board to enforce and execute the provisions of this ordinance in the Vermont Judicial Bureau of accordance with 24 VSA 1974 at F. Impoundment. Any dog or wolf hybrid that is determined by the town enforcement officer appointed by the select board to be a vicious dog or wolf hybrid which presents imminent danger to the people or animals shall immediately be impounded. Any dog or wolf hybrid that is apprehended for a third or subsequent nuisance violation of provision of this ordinance shall be impounded. Section 10, notice of impoundment and release from impoundment. The officer who impounds a dog or wolf hybrid shall within 24 hours give notice to the owner thereof, either in person, phone call, electronic message, written notice, or at the owner's dwelling. Such notice shall inform the owner of the nature of the violation, the location of the animal, and the steps that are necessary to have the animal returned to the owner. If an impounded dog or wolf hybrid has no license or other identification, the person who impounds it shall proceed under the provisions of 20 VSA 3806. Impounded animals shall be released to the owner only after payment of all penalties, impoundment fees, and after remedial action by the owner. A receipt from the Highgate Town Clerk must be presented to the impounding agency to show proof of payment of all penalties and fees. Remedial actions shall include, but not limited to, such actions as providing a collar, a current license, and providing a plan for compliance with the provisions of this ordinance and within state law. Impounded dogs or wolf hybrids will be held for a maximum of 5 days before they are rehomed or humanely destroyed. Section 11, investigation of vicious dog or hybrids, wolf hybrids. When a dog or wolf hybrid has bitten or attacked a person or animal, therefore referred to as the victim, while the dog or the wolf hybrid is off the premises of the owner and keeper, the victim bitten or attacked requires medical attention for the attack. Such person or owner of the attacked animal may file a written complaint with the legislative body of the municipality. The complaint shall contain the time, date, place where the attack occurred, the name and the address of the victims, and any other facts that may assist the legislative body in conducting this investigation. The legislative body, within 7 days from receipt of the complaint, shall investigate the charges and hold a hearing on the matter. If the owner of the dog or wolf hybrid that is the subject of the complaint can be ascertained with due diligence, said owner shall be provided with a written or confirmed electronic notice of the time, date, and place of the hearing and the facts of the complaint. If the dog or wolf hybrid is found to have bitten or attacked the victim without provocation, the municipal officials shall make such order for the protection of persons as the facts of circumstances of the case may require, including without limitation that the dog or wolf hybrid is disposed of in a humane way, muzzled, chained, confined, or remove them down entirely. The order shall be sent by certified mail, return receipt requested. Any such order shall provide the owner of the dog or wolf hybrid with the right to appeal the order to the procedure for filing an appeal. A person who, after receiving notice, fails to comply with the terms of the order shall be subject to the penalty provided in 20 VSA 3550. The procedures provided in this section shall only apply if the dog or wolf hybrid is not a rabies suspect. If a member of the legislative body or municipal official designated by the legislative body determines that the animal is a rabies suspect, the provisions of subchapter 5 of Title 20, Chapter 193, and the rules of the Department of the Health Department shall apply. Penalties and costs for the animals. First offense, as set annually or billed by agency, plus $100. Second offense, as set annually billed by agency, plus $175. Third offense, as set annually or billed by agency, plus $350. Subsequent offenses, as set annually or billed by agency, plus $750. If impoundment is at the residence of the animal control officer, the select board shall set the impoundment rates annually to be billed to the owner, otherwise impoundment costs will be billed by the impounding agency. The owner of the dog or wolf hybrid will be responsible for reimbursing all legal fees incurred by the town. Other laws. The ordinance, in addition to all other ordinances of the town of Highgate and all the applicable laws of the state of Vermont. Severability. Any section of this ordinance is held by a court by competent jurisdiction to be invalid. Such findings shall not invalidate any other part of this ordinance. Effective date. The ordinance shall become effective 60 days after adoption by the town of Highgate Selectboard if a petition is filed under 20 VSA 1973 that statutes shall govern the taking effect of this ordinance.
You made it all the way through.
Wow.
I was waiting for you to tap
You didn't slow down at all. I'm just going to point out one of the biggest changes to this, other than it's much more well-written than it was before, and this has also been gone over by legal counsel multiple times now, so this should be rock-solid, airproof. The big thing was Section 11, investigation of a vicious dog. It did not before include if your personal animal was bitten by a vicious dog. So it was only if a dog bit a person. Now it's if a mean dog or a vicious dog bites a person or one of your pets, basically, then it's part of the investigation and then the penalties can be applied. That was the big change that needed to be made, and it's now incorporated in this, so bravo.
that, and the full penalty additions were updated.
And the penalties are way up.
Yeah. So The version was read, now we will adopt it by putting it into the minutes, post it in 5 places around town, publish it in the St. Albans Messenger within 14 days of adoption, which equal to February 4th. If no petition against the ordinance adoption is received within 44 days of the adoption, which is March 7th, then it will automatically become effective on March 23rd. Is there a motion to move to accept and adopt this updated dog control ordinance?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any other business to come to the town?
Planning
Yep.
commission is all right?
Did you want to talk about impact fees or?
Impact fees, well, we got the planning commission here.
I thought that was on here. Did we miss it?
It's in your packet.
Yeah.
Packet.
I included it in the packet for a variety of reasons, but yes, it is. It's in there on purpose.
It sounds like the select board, or certain people on the select board are wanting to move forward with looking into something,
Yes.
some sort of thing. So that's kind of what the planning commission.
Are we having a conversation? What are we?
Well,
I'm looking at,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the options here, and
right.
I'm business oriented, and I'm not ever for putting extra burdens on, I guess, people trying to improve, depending on how you look at it, the town. But at the same point,
I'm with
we are getting bigger, and we need to cover costs, the additional costs
Well,
that it brings to the town, which is exactly what they're for.
Right. We're getting these developers coming
Right.
in. They're making all the money, leaving us with the tax burdens.
Yeah.
To me personally, I'd like to see a two-prong approach. I do not want to charge somebody who's lived in the town, if your kid wants to build a house in the town, I think it's great. And I don't think we ought to be charging for it. What I'm thinking is something whereas, like, to slow them developers down is if you live in that home, you build a home, and you live in it for a year, then that is refunded to you, some sort of fee. Where these developers don't do that, they pop them up and they're building spec houses and putting all that in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
I do not want to discourage people from building new homes in the town and living in them. Do not want to discourage that. What I want to discourage is the developers making all the profit and leaving us with the tax burdens. And with some sort of impact fee of some sort, we can at least recoup some of our investment, you know? Because we keep building and our fire department has to expand, our policing expands, all that expands on the taxpayers' dime.
Impact fee to me seems better than a townwide tax.
Correct.
Right.
That affects just the developer.
You know,
Yeah.
Freddie brought to the point with the impact fee, we can only use that money on new infrastructure, correct?
It's new capacity infrastructure. So it doesn't exactly have to be a brand new project, but that project, it's also listed out in the staff report of every single thing that could go under an impact. Did I list out impact fees or did I list out CHIP? I listed out CHIP. Sorry, referring to the wrong thing. That was an 8-page document, sorry. Impact fees are really about the expanding capacity aspect of it. And we would also have to have someone come in and basically do an entire ordinance. I know that Shelburne right now is paying almost $100K to have that right now. I think theirs is just out of, I'll skip over that example, but basically impact fees are something that you absolutely can explore, especially with wastewater. And if you have a long-term plan for expanding capacity for the wastewater system, whether that actually come true or not, a plan would be doable. I think the biggest question on the staff side is how do you justify it legally? Because we would have to get a consultant in to basically go through that ordinance, because any of those impact fees have to be based in the reality of the cost of it. We can't just slap a number on it and go forward. It's an involved legal process. That is my only concern as a staff member, is that this is going to take longer than you're expecting.
We discussed in our last meeting, Sheldon had an impact fee, and they no longer had it. Going into that kind of problem too.
Yeah, and that's why you would want to hire, so I assume that NRPC or some organization similarly would be able to like handle that as a contracted capacity of like, we basically put out an RFP or an RFQ for a contractor who could pull together that, but again, we do have to, impact fees are a little bit more on the legal side of things, so it would take probably a couple of years. I would say 3 is at the most, but it would really depend. And we would have to pay for whoever would be doing all of the extra legal on that for the ordinance to go in. Yeah. It's absolutely doable. It's just, it's going to take time and cost of money. Would it turn itself over? Would the cost of it be recouped fairly easily? Possibly. That would also depend on the developments that come in and any impact fees that are assessed. Another solution to something of that sort in the short term is basically the DRB can assess, so they can do conditional approvals, and part of those conditions would be an assessed fee for something, or having them put in sidewalks themselves versus we put in sidewalks. It's just an example. I'm not saying that we do that existingly. A lot of options. So yeah.
Freddie, a question that I had is, so could those fees be used to offset like purchasing a new town truck or a town loader? No.
Nope. Those cannot be used for vehicle purchases, as far as I'm aware. I could totally be proven wrong, but under
Could you find out exactly what it can be spent on? Because if we're collecting money that we don't have nothing to spend on, I fully understand. But
so it would be based.
Discourage it.
Yeah. So basically, in terms of what it can be spent on, there is restrictions on that. Especially because it's about expanding capacity rather than.
Could we use it to do upgrades at the arena? Upgrades to this building, upgrades to storing. Luke just said they had concerns of storing some of our equipment.
So, if we can,
what could we offset?
If we as a town can legally and full-heartedly, basically justify why that specific capacity expanding project needs to be paid for and would be done within, I think it's 5 years is the 5-year limit, because if I'm a developer and I go and pay an impact fee, if I pay that impact fee and you don't use that money for 10 years, you owe me that money back. And so it really is about justifying it, and then also within the ordinance process of implementing impact fees, whatever long-term capacity expanding project schedule, however you want to plan it out, if you would include it in that long-term capacity expanding document, however you want to pull that together, you could justify that. It would just be, we would have to find that out with a contractor or go through legal again, because it's all complicated.
The layman's answer in Google machine here says impact fees can be used for schools, police, fire facilities, stormwater management, and transportation projects like roads and bike paths. Doesn't say anything about, I know what you're thinking, machines and that kind of stuff.
Is it road construction or road maintenance?
So roads, intersections, sidewalks, bike lanes, shared use paths to accommodate traffic from new development.
So part of it would be like if a developer built out a single road neighborhood and that road was going to expand upon an existing public road, and so the capacity for plowing needed to be expanded, they would be served a certain percentage of the cost of that as the impact fee. And I'm speaking in real big hypotheticals and real big top down, because it literally comes down to math equations. at that point. So yes, but I don't believe in the current language of the state of Vermont that you can assess impact fees that would be paying for vehicles. That seems to be something across the board between CHIP, not so much PDA or DRB assessed fees or fines, but impact fees and CHIP don't seem to be, they're strong on the, you can't pay for specific vehicles with this.
Now, can the town, like I said, like a two different permits? What, a permit for somebody who's building a home to live in? You know, we have a regular permit fee, and can we have a two-tier permit system where if you're building spec houses, it's a different fee? Would that be legal?
I would not know. I would have to go back to legal with that, but I think that something like that would be...
Well, what I'm saying is if you don't have residency in that home for 1 year following its completion, then that was considered, it was a spec home versus a personal home.
We'd have to go through legal to see what that would look like. Yeah.
My question is, aren't those costs just gonna be pushed back onto the future homeowner?
Yes. Yeah.
But
it won't be
pushed on to...
But it won't be pushed on the whole town.
It won't get pushed on to the 70-year-old people who've lived here for
Exactly.
70 years and they're getting taxed out of their home. Because we got to have more employees to plow more roads, we need a bigger fire department, so on and so forth. You know, I take the example, I know a ton of it's school taxes, 90% of it. But my taxes in 21 years have more than doubled on my house. That's what I look at. Well, if you're on a fixed income and you're retired at 60 and you live to 85 and your taxes double, I feel we're taxing our elderly out of this state. You know?
Yes, they are.
Especially those on a fixed income who can't make an extra dollar, don't get a raise. You know, fixed income, they don't get the 2 or 3% raise every year. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
They get
trying
an
to
adjustment, but not.
alleviate a little pressure on.
So in terms of options, we have for impact fees, did you guys have any other questions that wasn't addressed in that staff report?
No.
Did you guys have any other questions?
And I think that even though it takes time, I think it's a start.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's moving. We've tried to move this
For 4
years now, and the person up front just ignored us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fred.
I will absolutely do my best, and I think that lining it up with the, I think that the best way you could do was to line it up with the opening of the wastewater utility, because with that, anybody who wanted to hook on to so a developer wants to, I'm going to use the Cassidy property as an example. This is just an example, and it is not fact. This has nothing to do with Cassidy property. This is just an example. But on Gore, if we take the wastewater line to the arena and say the Cassidy development, however you want to call it, wants to hook on to the wastewater, we would have to expand our capacity to treat the wastewater, and they would have to pay for extending the line down to them, all of their connections, and pay basically a proportional percentage of what it would cost for us to expand the capacity. All in all, it does pay out, because then you have additional users, and that those additional users are taking on even more share of those O&M costs, operations and management costs. And so, yes, but I think that lining it up with wastewater would be a really good idea, because that's the only, in my opinion, based on my understanding of impact fees, the only place that we really have legal standing to basically put impact fees on in terms of capacity expanding. There are some other options for like recreation and fire and policing and the whole 9 yards of that. That is a little bit more complicated, and to line it up with wastewater would be a little bit more straightforward, and we can adjust as we go on. So, but yes, we can. It just takes time and money, and we can work through that, and we can try to schedule that to line up at the same time. Any other chip?
We have another big subdivision happening. Next year be another 15 lot. So
Where's
yes,
that?
what Scott is saying is true. They're coming in, they're subdividing, they're building or working with double wide manufacturing and putting in the lots, and then they move on. So it is true.
Decent parent come in for their sketch review.
Yeah.
It looks like once we collect them, we got 6 years to spend the money,
Yeah.
to allocate it and spend it.
Yeah, and those are pretty easy in terms of that, when you really get down to it, but I think that I could bring you more information. It would make more sense than me trying to pull
Yep.
examples out of the back of my head. But did you guys have any other chip questions?
You filled their brains with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I know. I was trying to make sure that we got all the information out and good today.
Maybe they'll have their own meeting in February.
I won't be there. I'm sorry, guys. You might be excited about that, but I'm sorry. I won't be here for the second select board meeting of the month, and I also won't be here for that.
I'll be there.
I got that.
We don't have no executive either.
No, I haven't, no.
17th.
But,
Wendy, when's our next meeting?
The 17th.
so for planning commission, you have homework in front of you. You have the updated wastewater ordinance in front of you. Again, I won't be there, but I will be watching, because I watch from every angle. So comments, feedback on that, because in March, we're hoping to get through the rest of it. Hopefully by March as well. All the information in terms of like, there's some numbers in there that have been left blank, and those are gonna be dependent on connections and costs and those fun things. I'm hoping by March, I'm actually pretty positive based on what Robert told me, that we'll have enough information to fill in those gaps. But our estimates of about $50 to maybe $75 a month does look to be like a good estimate. We're hoping that that's an overestimate, like we always hope so, especially with all of the commercial, non-residential, and then also the school possibly hooking onto that system. That takes up a lot of allocation, and they pay more because they're commercial, and then ultimately lowers the cost for individual residential users.
You know, my goal for that budget is to make sure it's self-sustainable.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
In 15, 20 years, we don't gotta build, put a $3 million bond there because we have
Right.
failure someplace.
Yeah.
And that's why we are bringing, like, that was a huge reason why bringing back the pre-treatment conversation is, like, if we put it out for bid and in that separate bid item, the cost of building out that pre-treatment infrastructure is too much, we don't have to go forward with it. But if it's within our budget and it makes sense, then you already have what you need. And if, the rest of the village core property gets redeveloped and there's a restaurant and they need however many gallons capacity, like 1,000 gallons capacity out of the allotment, you don't have to put nearly as much money into that and then they pay for themselves. Big, long story short. But yes, we do.
Short is good.
I know. Because I can talk forever. But basically, in terms of the finance stack for wastewater, would I like more money? Always. But between the $1 million that we got from MBRC, we got over $500,000 from the state of Vermont, and then we just recently got that $750,000. We have $2.25 million that we have gained since July. So, for this project. So
That's awesome.
that is not only a great example of what the town can do, but a very good outlook on where we can be with water. So yeah.
I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Lang.
I think Richard wants to go.
Look, okay, I can't make you stay. I could talk 20 million more times about it, but again, February 17th for the Planning Commission, you have in our PC coming for local hazard mitigation planning. They're going to kick that off. You have homework. We will get back to you. Do you have any other questions? No,
Questions on this?
you want to talk about that in public?
Planning commission, do you have to adjourn your meeting too?
Everybody needs to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Got a motion, it's been seconded.
Somebody needs to second that.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion
And
carried.
Richard and Vern, okay, gotcha, I got it all.
That was pretty good. There's only 3 of us.
We're good?
Yeah.
Richard?